No, I mean, she tried to get Marco Rubio to make a shocking confession in front of the world, and Marco Rubio literally stuns everybody with this response. But it lets you know exactly what the media is today. Take a listen to Marco Rubio as she tries to bait him into telling top secrets.
Can you name any concessions that Vladimir Putin made during this meeting? Have any
I wouldn't name them on your program.
Have any concessions
I wouldn't name
been
them
asked?
on your program. Why would I do that?
Where is the pressure?
Of course, because you can't have a peace agreement. No, you can't have a peace agreement unless both sides give and get. You can't have a peace agreement unless both sides make concessions. That's a fact. That's true in virtually any negotiation. If not, it's just called surrender. And neither side is going to surrender. So both sides are going to have to make concessions. So of course concessions were asked. But what utility would there be of me going on a program and tell you we've wagged our finger at Putin and told him you must do this and you must do that? It's only going to make it harder and less likely that they're going to agree to these things. So these negotiations, as much as everyone would love it to be a live pay-per-view event, these discussions only work best when they are conducted privately in serious negotiations in which people who have to go back and respond to constituencies, because even totalitarian governments have constituencies they have to respond to, people have to go back and defend these agreements that they make. And so, and figure out a way to explain them to people. So we need to create space for concessions to be made. But of course, concessions were asked.
Yeah, so she tried to make him admit something that's pretty wild. And again, like the media they just don't understand how this works. You want to negotiate, both sides have to come to an agreement. You have to give and take. That's a part of agreeing. That's a part of getting the better end of a deal. And that's a part of ending a war where millions of people have lost their lives and will continue to. And so it's mind-boggling to see how ABC handles this. But this wasn't the only time where Marco Rubio had to step up to the plate and shut down the mainstream liberal media. Holy crap, CBS, Margaret Brennan thought she knew more about foreign policy and the Russia-Ukraine negotiations than Marco Rubio. I want you to take a look at how bizarre the media has become when it comes to President Trump trying to find peace. And I also have a huge announcement about the meeting happening tomorrow with Europe and Ukraine and NATO, and Trump sending a crazy, not crazy, but a crazy warning to Zelensky about NATO. So we're going to take a look at that in just a few, but man, take a look at this.
You know, there's concern from the Europeans that President Zelensky is going to be bullied into signing something away. That's why you have these European leaders coming as backup tomorrow. Can you?
No, it isn't. That's not why they're coming as back. That's not true. No, but that's not why that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming.
That February Oval Office
they're coming
meeting
here tomorrow
in front of television cameras where President Zelensky.
Do you know how many meetings we've had since then?
Oh, no, I know. And I was just up in Alaska watching the one with Vladimir Putin where a red carpet rolled out.
No, but it was Zelensky. We've had more meetings. We've had one meeting with Putin and like a dozen meetings with Zelensky. So but that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're coming here tomorrow because we've been working with the Europeans. We talked to them last week. There were meetings in the UK over the previous weekend.
And they said President Trump was going to demand a ceasefire
as early as Thursday. No. But you said that they're coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming here tomorrow. Oh, this is such a stupid media narrative that they're coming here tomorrow because Trump is going to bully Zelensky into a bad deal. We've been working with these people for weeks on this stuff. They're coming here tomorrow because they chose to come here tomorrow. We invited them to come. We invited them to come. The president invited them to come.
But the president told those European leaders last week that he wanted a ceasefire. The president went on television, said he would walk out of the meeting if Vladimir Putin didn't agree with one. He said there would be severe consequences if he didn't agree to one. He said he'd walk out in 2 minutes. He spent 3 hours talking to Vladimir Putin, and he did not get one. So there's
because obviously things happened during that meeting. Well, because obviously look, our goal here is not to stage some production for the world to say, oh, how dramatic, he walked out. Our goal here is to have a peace agreement to end this war, okay? And obviously we felt, and I agreed, that there was enough progress, not a lot of progress, but enough progress made in those talks to allow us to move to the next phase. If not, we wouldn't be having Zelensky flying all the way over here. We wouldn't be having all the Europeans coming all the way over here. Now understand and take with a grain of salt, I'm not saying we're on the verge of of a peace deal, but I am saying that we saw movement, enough movement to justify a follow-up meeting with Zelensky and the Europeans, enough movement for us to dedicate even more time to this. You talk about the sanctions. Look, at the end of the day, if peace is not going to be possible here, and this is just going to continue on as a war, people will continue to die by the thousands. The president has that option to then come in and impose new sanctions. But if he did this now, the moment the president puts those additional sanctions, that's the end of the talks. You've basically locked in at least another year to year and a half of war and death and destruction. We may unfortunately wind up there, but we don't want to wind up there. We want to wind up with a peace deal that ends this war so Ukraine can go on with the rest of their lives and rebuild their country and be assured that this is never going to happen again. That's the goal here. We're going to do everything possible to make that happen if it's doable. It will require both sides to make concessions. It will require both sides to get things they're asking for. That's how these deals are made, whether we like it or not.
Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, boom. Total shock there. Ladies and gentlemen, like, I just don't think that the media realizes how this stuff even works. To me, and to you watching, it's common sense. It's not that hard to realize that both sides are literally at war, and we are the middleman. We're trying to find peace here. But man, are they trying to politicize and demonize President Trump for even trying something that the last administration didn't even do. When's the last time Vladimir Putin came into U.S. soil? It's been a long time. When's the last time a president went to Russia? It's been a very long time. So the fact that Vladimir Putin even invited Trump to Moscow is a huge signal that, hey, you know what? I think we can work this out. And many people are making the arguments that, hey, like Russia is more of an ally than any European nation is. Just look at history. This guy wants to work with the United States of America. That's another narrative. But the fact of the matter is that the media and the mainstream media are losing their minds because they're not getting the answers directly. Why? Because they're going to mess up the negotiations because they need a narrative. It is at lives cost that these people are willing to get stories. They don't even care anymore. That's the mainstream media today. But Trump just made an announcement, and we're going to be talking about that because tomorrow is a huge day. But breaking, President Trump tells Zelensky no NATO membership and no reclaiming Crimea from Russia. Trump is already setting the stage for what's about to happen tomorrow, which is one of the biggest meetings in the history of that war, in the history of Ukraine. This is a huge meeting that will dictate what happens next. And as you heard Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, concessions must be made, but we can't tell you exactly what's going on in the background. But we saw enough movement that tells us, you know what? I think we can make it happen. I think we can continue on this path to peace. We don't want to see no more death and destruction. That's the whole deal. That's the whole ordeal of choosing President Trump to be the president. So President Trump, minutes ago, says President Zelensky of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, or he can continue to fight. Remember how it started. No getting back Obama giving Crimea 12 years ago without a shot being fired, and no going into NATO by Ukraine. Some things never change. And again, Trump just put into plain language, serious geopolitical actor has known what every serious geopolitical actor has known since 2014. Ukraine will never get Crimea back, and Ukraine will never be allowed in NATO without risking nuclear war. There is so much risk to this. It just seems that simple, but to many people, they just don't understand it to be that. We can end this war immediately. We can end people being unalived immediately. Trump is putting it out there to the world that Zelensky has all but control. He has all of it. So again, I want to read this because I think this is very important. I think we all have to really look at the perspective on this. So Trump says, end the war now, end it now. And suddenly the warmongers lose their minds. Funny how peace is always dangerous to the same people who never spent a day in uniform, but are addicted to endless war profits. Zelensky can choose war or can choose peace. It's his call. And tomorrow that will be the case. But again, the mainstream media's narrative is way more important than peace. Their narrative is, oh, Trump is going to bully Zelensky again. Look at the difference. And I'll end this video with this. Look at the difference between Zelensky and Putin. He came with a suit and tie. He shook his hand. They spoke. It was respect. It was no begging, man-to-man contact. And now we move on to peace, or we can at least try. But if you look at Zelensky's body language, he's always asking for something. This guy's always asking for something at the expense of the United States, at the expense of us. Members that live here, the citizens of the United States, the tax-paying American must keep funding this war? I don't think so. I don't think we want to, which is why we voted for Trump. I think he's willing to do everything and anything to find peace here. And that's a great sign for the United States of America. But man, does the other side have to want it too. And the mainstream media is more confusing day by day. These people will never want peace because there's no more news if there's no more fighting. That's what it feels like to me, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think about Marco Rubio. What do you think about Marco Rubio? Is he impressing you so far? Is this guy the next VP? Is this guy a future president? Let me know down in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you guys on the next one.